Coming up this weekend on Angling USA, the Connecticut River produces some feisty smallmouth bass, and Minnesota's Lake Cavatogama is brimming with crappie. The Cook's Corner will heat up with a campside catfish recipe, and one of our angling kids will get a lesson in the predator-prey relationship. I'm Terry Brennan. Meet me here this weekend on Angling USA. Welcome back. You know, Wayne Nestor is considered one of the finest fly fishing instructors in the country. And today, Wayne and local guide David Dean have found the perfect fishing hole on the border of New Hampshire and Vermont. The Connecticut River's a great spot for some autumn fly fishing. Watch this.
You know, David, fishing in the autumn is a great time of year. It's very scenic. And here on the Connecticut River, I don't think I've seen anything prettier this year in all my fishing.
Yeah.
Now, the smallmouth here are somewhat legendary. And this time of the year, I understand that they're perhaps a little easier to catch if you find them.
Yeah, the problem is that they are moving out of shallow water into deep water, and in this area it means that they're schooling up and they're headed down to the very deep water downstream at the Bellows Falls Power Dam. But hopefully some guys will move up into this perfect lie.
Looks good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now, this river runs down through the border of New Hampshire and Vermont.
Right.
It's kind of an interesting anecdote of how New Hampshire got custody of the river.
Yeah, Vermont, when it was an independent republic, tried to take about a dozen towns in what's called the Upper Valley area, and the governor of New Hampshire didn't think that was a very good idea.
Was it back in the early 1700s?
Yeah, when Vermont was a republic, 1777 to 1791, and the governor raised an army to come over and talk to Ethan Allen about that. Ethan surrendered before the army got here and gave the towns back, and New Hampshire said they wanted the river. And so New Hampshire owns the river up to the mean high water mark on the Vermont shore. So this is not one of those rivers that has a dotted line down the middle between the two states.
And Papa. Now,
there
what
he
was
is.
That? Yeah, I see
back in there hard.
Yep. I see it. Right against the rock.
Yep.
Hello. That's real encouraging.
All right.
All right. Okay, now you took it on a slow retrieve?
Yep.
Oh, nice fish. Nice fish. Now, you were just working it very slowly off that drop-off.
Off the bottom. Yep. Now, did I or did I not see a net?
Right
yeah.
Let me give you a hand with that.
Yeah.
Nice fish. Oh, look at that.
There we go. That's what this river can do by
Well,
teasing.
I'd say that's a pretty fair one. Right there. Let's get the hook off. Now, we heard him working on the surface there.
That's not the same one.
No, he took this one a little
that was-
closer, yeah. Now, you would get a very slow retrieve. We did a deep diver on there,
Yep.
and he just picked it right up. This water warmed up
Rapala.
just a degree or two, and that's it.
Yep.
Pretty coloration.
Yeah.
Now, what'd you say, about 2, 2 1/4 maybe?
Yeah. Might be.
Pretty
and,
fish.
Yeah. Nice bronze
the right.
back. Yeah. All right. Set him back.
Okay, let's go. There he goes.
They're feeding. I mean, this is a feeding spot. Nice.
And that's where that fish rolled earlier.
Yeah. Well, I think I got him with
Yeah, you might have
the
gotten him
fly rod before, but okay.
This is definitely a little honey hole for these smallmouth. There he is.
Yes.
You're right. We started to hit 1 or 2 fish, and we're into a pot of them right now. They seem to be stacked up in there. I'll lead them right to the net.
All right.
There we go. A little bigger than the last one.
Yeah.
A little different coloration, too. Look at the barring on him.
Come here, you. Come here, you.
There we go. Well, David, the Connecticut River certainly showed us some smallmouth today, but seems to have dropped off a little bit in this late afternoon.
Yeah, it was a good day. I had fun.
We had the opportunity to do a little topwater smallmouth bass fishing in October, which is very surprising. An added bonus on top of this wonderful scenery here.
Yeah, this is our time of year.
Well, I can't complain with the trip. It's been a good one.
Good.
It's about time we head back.
Okay, let's do it.
You know, David, we tried a lot of different baits today, but it seems that basically 3 baits seem to produce the most fish for us. We had some weighted streamer flies in various shades from yellow to bright green to black and that crystal flash green. And it seemed the darker colors worked best there. When the action came to the surface, we were able to put on some poppers. Very surprising today for this late in the season. But I have to think that the most successful baits we had today were your plugs.
Well, the plugs are imitations of baitfish, and they are the species that they see out here that they get to feed on. The lure itself has a very active motion in the water, and when you first cast it, it sits on the surface of the water and is pulled under by the scoop right at its chin.
And that was another important lesson we learned today. It seemed the speed of retrieve really held the key to our fishing success today. Whether it was fly, popper, or plug, we had to let it sit in the water, let the rings dissipate, and then start the retrieve. And then it was a very slow retrieve. Something difficult for the plugs because you don't really get the full action on a very slow retrieve.
Right. We went from a quick retrieve to a slow retrieve to no retrieve.
And that's when we started hitting the fish.
That's when we started hitting fish. Yep.
Well, you can see why Wayne Nestor is one of Angling USA's experts and certainly qualified to teach others the fine art of fly fishing. Next up, angler and chef Tim Nugent shows us what's hot and healthy on the Cook's Corner. Enjoy.
You know, more and more fishermen are now recognizing that there's a great deal more that you can add to a campsite catch of the day than just hot grease and cornmeal. In fact, those 2 traditions of fish preparation are completely done away with in this meal. The taste of grease is replaced by the savor of mesquite, and the natural crunch of herb skin fills the vacancy that plain cornmeal sometimes creates. The key to great tasting outdoor cooking is to prepare and package the main ingredients at home, so you can massage the seasoning into your catfish when you bring your catch back to camp. Start with the preparation of a salt cure to increase the succulence of the fish. To avoid high sodium levels, use any salt substitute. I'm using 1 tablespoon of seasoned salt with 1½ teaspoons of sugar. Mix them together, and then rub them into the fillets. Then set the fillets aside for about an hour. Then rinse off the salt rub and pat them dry. Prepare the onion cilantro rub as follows. About 1/4 cup of minced green onions, 2 tablespoons of minced fresh cilantro. You can add 3 cloves of garlic if you'd like. 1 tablespoon of finely minced fresh ginger, and 1 teaspoon of coarsely ground black pepper. And then you can add about 1 teaspoon of grated lime peel. Mix all of this together, and then take your fillets. You can add 3, place them into a container, and coat them with the rub. Then seal the prepared fillets in individual bags. Place those again in a larger plastic seal bag, and you can put that into your ice chest for transport. When you get to camp, pull them out and put them on a grill. The hard work was accomplished at home. I'm topping off the grilled fish with a final touch of dry sage while I'm heating French bread over the campfire. And I brought along a delicious, fat-free, sugar-free dressing for a quick campsite salad, which I'll show you how to make on another segment of Cook's Corner. It all adds up to the inside thinking on outdoor cooking that tastes like it should have been ordered from a menu with a tassel on it.
Angling USA is being brought to you by Evinrude Outboards.
Cut out the hassles. Javelin boats make fishing fun and trouble-free. Come in and see our complete line of hot-performing bass boats starting as low as $59.95. Javelin boats are factory rigged for total quality, built and backed by Outboard Marine Corporation.
Did you know that Dan Gapin's written 22 books on the subject of fishing? Well, sounds like an angler who's qualified to give us the how-tos of crappie fishing. Let's see if Dan's staying warm close to the Canadian border in northern Minnesota on Lake Cavatogama.
Today I'm fishing with a good friend of mine, Ed Henn. He runs Sandy Point Lodge on Lake Cavatogama, and we're going to fish those old crappies. We had a little sun this morning, but boy, it doesn't look like it now. It looks like we're going to cloud up and get a little cool. Typical fall weather for the northern part of Minnesota up on the Canadian border.
There's one.
Attaboy.
I'd say that's about time, isn't it?
We just came over a bunch of them. I see, oh my goodness, I got a bunch on the graph here. You must have caught the first one out of the...
Aren't they pretty?
Light line, jig hook, that does it, doesn't it? About 1.25 pounds. Oh, look at that, Ed. Isn't that a dandy? I'll take your fish. Yeah, that's a nice one. Oh, I got a fish on too. Look at there. Oh, I got to put him in the live well somehow. He's in the live well. I got fish too. My goodness. We're using ultralight equipment out here today. 4-pound test line, 6-pound test line, ultralight rods, but we're using 1/4-ounce jigs. We're fishing 29 to 36 feet of water, and the crappies are right flat on the bottom. Thank you. Oh, that's that nice. One of the things that is kind of interesting, if you drift them, right now we're drifting and trying to hold ourselves, is that you kind of drag that jig along bottom, and I don't know, there's not too many places that you can catch crappies by dragging on the bottom. It's sort of like walleye trolling or drifting in a sense. We're not using our electric motor. We're using the 50 horse, and we're back trolling into the wind and causing it to slow the boat down. We're physically dragging a 1/4-ounce jig down in 30 to 35 feet of water right on the bottom. That's where the fish are. They're flat on the bottom. We got one. We come over them and we took them.
Nice fish, too.
Nice fish?
He's fighting well.
The graph doesn't lie.
Nope. You couldn't fish out here for these fall crappies without a good graph.
Flatten out. How about that? There's your fish. A little bit of a couple little rocks, and those crappies are hanging right over the top of it. And there he is, right there. There's another punka structure, and there's fish all over it too. Oh, that feels good. Nice fish. Look at that. He's pulling drag on me even. Boy.
Want the net
This
for him?
light line, I'll tell you what, it is fun. These crappies are fun. All you have to do is get yourself an ultralight rod. 4-pound test line and fished 30-some feet of water. And if you don't think you're going to have fun, well, he certainly felt better than that.
You probably noticed the crappie weren't active about the last 10 feet of retrieve. That's because they're coming up from cold water at depths exceeding 30 feet. The fish were very active in the deeper water.
When working winter crappie far in the north in late fall, when they're down in winter mode, what we call winter mode in the north, when they're down in 30 to 35 feet of water and they got their stomachs flat on the bottom, they're often difficult to catch unless you put your bait right down there. So we find that using twister-style jigs works real well, or using a specialty twister-type jig with the little rubber legs on it even helps entice it. You can use a minnow jig, a hair jig, any of these will work for you. Use 8 1/4-ounce weights, use ultralight equipment, light line, that helps you. If you want to put a little meat on it, make sure you use fathead minnow, a little bigger than normal, or a little sucker minnow. That'll work for you. And for those that really like to work them with floats or bobbers, then use a slip float, set your line at the depth that the crappies are at. If you can get within a foot or two of them with a knot, set your knot at 33 feet if the crappies are at 34 on the bottom, and let your bait drift over them with using a slip bobber, and that will help. So don't worry that you can't catch them, but you got to fish them slow. You got to be right over the top of them, and you got to work your bait by them very slow.
Angling Kids and some mighty sharp tips coming up. Stay tuned.
The key to increasing your hookups is to make sure that the point of your hook is sharp. And here, how to tell us to do that properly, is John Anthon of Gatco Sharpeners. John, we've got a hook here, obviously from Moby Trout, but I wonder if you can describe to us how we can sharpen a hook properly.
You bet, Wayne. This is our basic buffalo fishing hook. We've got large fish here in western New York. And the proper technique for sharpening a hook is to triangulate the point. And what that means is to shape the metal in the point of the hook so that it all flows toward the tip section. To do that, we'll take an abrasive hone or a file and sharpen the hook on the right side toward the point, sharpen the hook on the bottom side toward the point, and then sharpen the hook on the left side toward the point. And that can be done with any size hook, from your smallest fly hooks up until your large ocean hooks.
I see. Now, after a day of fishing, or perhaps even just a few minutes of fishing, our hook is on the bottom, perhaps bouncing off the rocks, getting caught on snags, or even just hooking a fish. That might dull the hook, but how do we know for certain that our point is dull?
They're real easy to test. All you do is take your hook, hold it by the eye, take a flat, hard surface, and bear down and try to get the hook to catch. It's sliding, which would indicate that the point has been rounded off by bouncing off the bottom and perhaps hitting a rock or hitting the hard mouth of a salmon.
And how do we bring that point back?
To sharpen it back, once again, we want to sharpen the right side of the hook by inserting it in the right sharpening groove and running it up and down just 8 to 10 times.
That's all, just 8 to 10 times.
That's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
The back of the hook in the middle groove, 8 to 10 times.
And then the right side, 8 to 10 times. Now, what material is that abrasive made from?
That's an industrial-grade aluminum oxide.
And that provides a very good sharp point on all the hooks?
That provides good cutting ability, which will sharpen the point to a perfect needle-like point. And to test it, we just take the hook, once again holding it in the same fashion, and at about a 45-degree angle, bring it down into that.
Seems to be digging in pretty stiff.
You bet.
Uh-huh.
That'll catch a fish.
Now, that's a sharp hook. Thanks so much, John.
You're welcome.
A dull hook can lose a big one. Keep those hooks sharp. Now let's meet Angling Kids correspondent Christy Wilson as she learns about predator feeding habits. Watch this.
Now, take that minnow and hold him like this. Here, let me do this. There, you hold him just like that. Okay. Now hold him down there. Go ahead and stick your finger underwater just a little bit.
Come on back up here. What would happen if you dumped all the minnows in at once?
All at once? Now, we've been feeding a couple at a time, but I tell you what, yeah, they're feeding. Let's just see. What's going to happen is the same thing that would happen out in your favorite lake or stream, is that you put all these minnows in here, and they go into what's called a feeding frenzy. And you're going to be able to look around here, and they're going to be, look at them racing. You can hear the noises. Pop. And you see how they get after those fish? They're very intent on feeding. And that's what happens out in the wild. And you can learn a lot from looking at a situation where you have, well, fish that are your pets, so to speak. and watching how they react. And you saw how quickly they came up and got that minnow, didn't you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, do you have like a minnow lure?
Oh, sure. I've got one right here. And what we might do is just take a minnow and see if you can, you know, this one's got the hooks off of it. We don't want to, let me throw it right over here and see if, oh, I got him. There he was. He had it. Now, look at this. Try to do is to take something, we call it matching the hatch. Now, if they're feeding on crawfish, you need to throw something that looks like a crawfish. Right now, we're throwing something that looks like a little minnow because that's what we're feeding them. And the best luck that you'll have out when you're fishing is to kind of approximate the size and the shape of the things that the fish would normally want to eat when they're out there in the wild.
Do bass normally eat minnows?
Bass eat minnows. You know, bass eat minnows, they eat crawfish, they eat shad, they eat all kinds of different things. But the thing that a lure does is these fish are hungry. We're not trying to fool anybody. I mean, they were ready to eat, okay? But what you want to do in the wild is that you want to make something look like it's hurt or injured. You want to make it kind of work along, and I don't know whether without the hooks on here it kind of balances, but you want to kind of twitch it and make it, well, act funny like it may be injured. Because these fish, all predator fish out there, take advantage of the situation. If it looks a little different, maybe the color of it, it'll get eaten first. That's the way that Mother Nature takes care of the predator-prey relationship.
Thank you. This is Christy with Angling Kids, and don't forget, match the hatch.
Thanks for joining us on another edition of Angling USA. You know, when it comes to fishing, we're with our friend Dan Gapin all the way. Fishing really is a great family sport, one to have fun at, and one which doesn't require that the angler always catch the biggest or the most to really enjoy. So tune in next week when we head north to the St. Croix River for the unusual sturgeon and way out west for some fast bass action. For Angling USA, I'm Terry Brennan. We'll see you next week.
Angling USA was brought to you by Johnson Outboards, Stratus Boats, nothing else comes close, Javelin Boats, the pro's choice, Hydra Sports Boats, the best ride on the water.